reason that I am focusing on intentionally and successfully navigating transitions is so that we all do get from where we are right now to where we know we want to be. And I have found that to be a common framework around everything I'm doing in my life. And I'm not here to sell you anything today at all. I'm just sharing information. And so I'm going to be very respectful of our 30 minutes. And at the end of that time, if you've got additional questions or if there's anything else I can answer for you, I'm more than happy to. And I appreciate you being here. And let's see. I have several goals for our time together today. The first thing is, when we came into this world, we came in with unquenchable curiosity, and we came in with it for survival. And as infants and in our early childhood, we were taught to be unquenchably curious, to figure out how we could survive. And so we were always asking, what, how, what, looking, exploring, what is this, what is this? And then there came a time where for some of us, we were taught to question less and answer more. And so this unquenchable curiosity that we're meant to have in our lives has sometimes gotten tamped down. And for us to be really intentional and successful in navigating the transitions in our lives so they serve us and they work for us, unquenchable curiosity is one of the greatest things that we can do. We continue to question where we are in all areas of our lives so we can explore what else is possible. So my first goal for our time today is unquenchable curiosity. Hi, Lori, welcome. My second goal is that you never see transitions in the same way again. That when you have something going on in your life and it's considered a transition, and we'll talk about what those are, that you now know that transitions are for you and you have a process to get you from where you are to where you know you want to be. So you don't look around one day and go, how did I get here? Or you don't end up someplace and go, this is not where I want to be. So that transitions are really helping you be successful in your life. And the third thing, don't settle. Just like we came into the world with unquenchable curiosity, we came into the world with a purpose and for a reason. And so when we continue to explore what's possible, we continue to live from the things that are the very highest expression of who we are. I've learned in my life that when we don't have our own definition and clarity on a particular word we use, it could be a label that we end up using incorrectly. One of the most prevalent places for that in me was in my roles in enterprise application support. And I asked a lot of questions to my prospects. And if they used a word and I just assumed that my definition matched theirs, I could miss the mark or I could underserve the opportunity. And so transitions, here's the definition that I have for the word transitions. It's the process that we associate with the changes we go through in all areas of our lives. So it's not the change itself, it's what we do with that change. And I love the Latin derivative of the word transition. It comes to mean a going across or over. So it's the bridge from where we are to where we're going. And when we think about that as being a bridge, and we have clarity on what that transition means, then whatever that bridge is, we can cross it successfully and get to where we know we're going. Why do you care? Why would transitions be important to you? First of all, it seems really very simple, but it does make life easier. When we know where we're going, when we know who we have to be to get there, when we know why we want to get there, and we know what it's going to be like when we're there, it just makes it a whole lot easier for us to get there. It makes it easier for us to make decisions when it's challenging, and it makes it easier for us to celebrate success because we know what that looks like. So it makes life easier for us. Second thing is, when we're really intentional and when we know about the transitions that we're making and why we're doing, we're focusing on the highest expression of our natural talents, skills, and abilities that, just like our unquenchable curiosity, came into the world with us. So when we do that, we feel great about ourselves because we know we're doing what we're aligned with. And then, because we've defined what it is, when we're successful, we feel great about it. We don't wonder, we don't say, I feel like something's missing, or I'm not enough, or I need to do something else. No, we're satisfied because we've achieved what we know we wanted. And when we're living from the highest expression of who we are, then we are our own prodigy. Each one of us is a prodigy. Many of us are undiscovered. And while we have child prodigies that people have heard of, there's Charlotte Church, they talked about Tiger Woods, but Grandma Moses was in her 70s before she stepped into being a famous American painter. Colonel Sanders was in his 60s. Julia Child was in her 50s. Vera Wang didn't design a dress until she was 39. So when we step into our unique prodigy, that which we were brought in our world to be, it doesn't mean that if we're not in 3 to 5 years old that we're not going to. It just means that if we're intentional about where we're going to get closer to what that is, and we're going to live our best life from that. And so why being intentional about it? Why does that really matter? Because one of the things that can happen is no matter whether it begins because something happened to us, we may have lost a partner, we may have lost a job, or we may have stepped away from something. No matter what it started as, these changes may happen to us, but transitions, when we intentionally navigate them, they are for us. They move us into a better place. So we're at choice. We don't always have all of the choices, but we have the significant choices of what we can do and why and how. And part of it is because we matter. I mean, we're important. One of the most important things that I've learned in my life is because each of us looks at things differently, and because we're naturally wired differently, even if we have the same process that we use to navigate transitions, they will impact us differently, and we'll see things differently, and we'll process them differently, and we'll get to different places. And so when we understand ourselves in a meaningful way, and we understand that we're naturally wired differently, we don't try to be a cookie cutter, and we don't listen to somebody who wants to make us a cookie cutter. We take it and apply it and make it work specifically for what is best for us, which means that's where we are able to step into our uniquely greatest potential and find our best possibilities. And the other thing is those around us matter. Transitions are rarely only about us. They usually impact someone else in our family, in our community. And so when we look at the transition and we look at where it's impacting our lives and other people, then we can also make choices that impact that particular consideration. Perhaps this is a season where we don't make the choice we would have if we were in a different season of our life. And I'll give you a great example of that. Let me just step back to this and give you one of the examples in the transition here. Early in my sales career, there's a gentleman whose name was Jim, and he was phenomenally gifted technically. He had so much knowledge. And part of what that was is he was able to understand things technically, but explain it to people who didn't understand technology. And he also had a young wife and an infant. And because of that, when he was asked to be on the road 5 days a week, helping people and doing the very best he could at work, his wife and baby were at home and he wasn't able to be there. And when he got home late on a Friday night, he was exhausted, but he needed to be there for his wife and child. And over time, it was that he couldn't serve either group well. And so when we're able to look at the transitions and how they're intertwined with other people and other parts of our lives, we can take into consideration, as he finally did and said, hey, you guys, I can't travel more than 3 days a week. And he and his wife worked out what would be good so that they could make choices in the transitions that he was going through so it would serve everybody. Now, very quickly, why do I care? I didn't always know that this is what was going to really call to me, but I've learned that over the years. And part of it came from my brother and me and how different we were. My dad's entire career was with Sears, Roebuck and Company. So right from the day that he graduated from college, he had the acceptance letter and he went into their store management training program. So every couple of years we moved from city to city, state to state, different parts of the country. And I loved it. I saw it as a new adventure, new people to meet, new things to conquer. And my brother hated it. He hated change. He hated everything to do with change. It was a big struggle for him. Now, I think of things as repurposed lessons. Now that I know about the differences in our personality and I understand how differently we see transitions and we walk through that path, I now know as an adult what would have helped for him as a child if we had known that, but we didn't. But that lesson was meant for me to be able to help people understand that we want to go through transitions specifically for how they work for us and understanding how we're uniquely wired. And another part is in my professional life. Another part of who I am and my personality of loving everything in the next adventure is pleasing people. I love to make people happy. And so in my career, people would say, you're really great at that. You should be doing this. Okay. And I would do that. And I would work really hard to please them and I would be successful. And I kept doing that. And then one day I found myself on the wings in the shadows behind the stage in Maui, Hawaii, at this huge convention center where I was about to be recognized for having exceeded company records for sales and services nobody had ever set. And I was getting ready to go out and receive this award, and this nagging feeling that I had had for so long of something's missing, something's missing, something's missing, that I kept pushing down because I was busy, I was working hard, I was exceeding goals. That came back to me, and I realized I had gotten to this really awesome place, but it wasn't what I wanted. It was what everybody else wanted, and I was doing that. And so another reason why I care is that we can get to a really great place, but if we don't know if it's where we want to be, then it's not successful either. And I want everybody to have that. And then also I have roles of caregiving support. And what I learned in those roles of caregiving support is that it's filled with transitions. And if we don't know how to stay positive and balanced, how to be present in the moment, then as I say, it's like being on an emotional roller coaster, often blindfolded, and we're just thrown over and over and over. So when we intersect all of those things together, and then we bring them for you to successfully navigate the transitions in your life, then you will feel great when you get where you know you want to be. So when we talk about it being a bridge, very quickly, you're here and there's a transition to get you to want to be there. And so there are 3 things you want to do to be able to successfully navigate that transition. The first one is bring healthy closure to where you have been. You have been here. And now, whether it's a promotion and something really exciting, or whether it's a change in your life, you want to explore it and bring healthy closure to it so you can move forward. Let's say it's a new role in your company and you have things that need to get processed before you can go. You create specific boundaries about it, and whatever it is, you put together the way that allows you not to carry that or be blinded by that as you go forward. So that's not the lens through which you're seeing what you do when you go through the transition. Because as you cross that bridge, you don't want to be going across the side of it. You want to be gaining more clarity so that when you step across the other side of the bridge, you're able to move forward with clarity, confidence, and curiosity into now what you're going to be doing. And so all of the things that were before are still reference points for you, and there's still things that are out there, but they're not things that weigh you down or pull you back or keep you from crossing that bridge or cause you to go off the side of the bridge. So when you think about the transition, I've made it very simple. Something begins it. You either become aware, this is not where I meant to be, or something happens in our life. We look up one day and we say, I'm done, I'm ready to retire. Or this job has all of a sudden been taken away from me. Whatever it is, a death, a birth, a marriage, a divorce, a graduation, no matter where it starts, you've got the beginning of it and then what I call the messy middle. We're figuring it out, but we don't have clarity on yet what it's going to be. But if we don't have a process that specifically helps us navigate our transitions intentionally, then when we're in that messy middle, even if we didn't really like where we were, it's very easy to be pulled back, or it's very easy to go off course, because it's hard for us in those challenges to push through that messy middle to get to the other side. And so when we're intentional and we know what we want, we know why we want it, we know how to get there, and we know what it's going to look like when we get there, then we can stand strong and we can develop resilience and get through to the other side. And then when we're there, we are transformed physically, mentally, and emotionally, and we get there and we're where we want to be. And then we settle right there and then go on to the next thing. How am I checking in? How are we doing? Is this all making sense?
Yes.
Good? Okay. I know I'm moving quickly, but I want to make sure I get all of this through in the time that we've got. I love this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, because this is one of the things I want for you today. Whenever you think of a transition, I don't ever want you to be thinking about it again, just as something that happens, or going through your life and not thinking about the transitions. I want you now to go, you know what? I could be doing this intentionally. How am I doing this? What am I doing? Now, one of the things that I created is a 6-step process to do that. And I'm not going to go through all those steps today. My goal today is to introduce you to this and have you raise your own curiosity about it. And this first step that we're going to talk about today may be all you'll ever need. So I want you to get started with your unquenchable curiosity and the path that you're going to go. And here's where it starts. You want to know what you want and where you want to be. And this isn't something that you say, okay, I'm going to write that question down and the first thing that comes to mind, that's what it is. It's a series of questions you go through, and then you keep going through and you ask yourself over and over, And I'll give you an example of that. So the second part of it is why. Why do we want to ask all of these questions? Part of it is because they're things that, interestingly, if I were to ask you if you had thought about it, you would most likely have said yes. We think we've thought about these things, but in many cases we haven't, or with the specificity that gives us the clarity. And it's fascinating when I walk through this with people and I ask them, have you given this thought? Oh, yes. And then when we break it down, they really haven't. And so it's the gift of being able to ask questions and consider them and go through time and time again. And then one of the most important things about this is that when you're doing this and you understand your personality, you understand how you're naturally wired, you understand the things that could cause you challenge, you understand where your gifts are, and you understand where your gaps may be, it gives you permission to ask for guidance and support in the areas where you don't have the answer. And that could be from a family member, that could be from a peer at work, that could be somebody from one of your communities, it could be a professional, but wherever it is, you don't have to feel like, well, you know what, this shouldn't be that hard. I should be able to figure this out. I should be able to do this on my own. No, you don't have to. And we're not all, we don't know all the answers. And so it gives you permission to be able to reach out and get the support that will really serve you and help you. And people want to help each other. So how are we going to do this? We're going to start asking very specific questions. And it's not just head questions. Head questions are great for us, the logic mind, for us to think through. And yet our unconscious mind, the mind that really gets us going, works with our emotions and works with symbols. And so we're going to ask questions of both the head and the heart and kind of make sure we're in alignment. And then the next thing is we're going to create a picture of, like when I was talking about getting ready to accept that award, if that had been my goal, that would have been my picture. I would have pictured myself walking across the stage in this beautiful suit that I had invested more time and money on than anything I had ever done, and feeling just the great recognition of the job well done. But that hadn't been my goal, and that wasn't the vision. But when you create your vision and you step into it, then you know you're where you're meant to be. And then you clarify it in each area of your life. And it's not like you're needing to do the whole wheel of life exercise, and you could if you chose to. But the reason that it's important to consider it in all areas of your life is that just like transitions aren't usually just about one person, they're usually not just about one area of your life. And so, for example, if let's say you decided you were going to train to run a marathon, well, that would be great for you, but it would also impact your family. You have different considerations for your family, perhaps because your diet would be changed. You'd ask them if they could alter their diet. There'd be different timing where things that you wouldn't be as available for. Your social life might be changing, so your relationships with friends might be changing, and other kinds of things in education or other kinds of just other areas of your life. And the other part of it that's really important to check in on with that is that if something's not congruent, then you step back and you say, well, how do we make it congruent? Or is this perhaps not the right season for it? So back to my friend Jim, it was not congruent for him to do the work he was doing with the family season that he was in with a young wife and infant. And so that had to be worked because they were just not congruent. And so when you're going through and asking the questions, check in on the different areas of your life to make sure all of them are in harmony. And then where they're not, again, ask people who can give you insights and keep stepping back and stepping back till you can get to a point where you feel comfortable and confident and clear where it is. So here are some, I have a whole lot more questions, but here are some of the ones that are really, really valuable to start your process for you. And I'm glad to send these to you if you'd like them. But the first two of them, you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Stated in the positive, specifically, what do I want? And for what purpose? What do I want? And for what purpose? And the reason that you keep asking this, and this is something that you do over a period of time, again, it's kind of like you've heard, if something's noodling in the back of your mind, or you put it down and you come back to it. This is going to be something that once you start asking the question, more things will start coming up over a period of time. And each time you ask it, you want to make sure that it really resonates with you. That's not something your head is just saying, well, this sounds really good. What do I want? Well, this sounds really good. I want $1 million. Okay, for what purpose do I want the $1 million? And then you just keep asking yourself and going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until you were really clear about what you want and why you want it. And then the next thing, one of the things that happens so much to us is that we put goals in our lives, but these goals are things, you know, spoiler alert, the only thing we have control over is ourselves. And so we set goals for ourselves that are successful only based on things that other people do. And so we need to make sure that we understand what part of it we have control over and what part of the outcome we don't have control over. So we set our goals appropriately to that level of expectation. And our success is not based on something that somebody else has defined or somebody else could prevent us from having. That we work together so we know what our part of the success is. Then you step into, what is this going to look like when I have it? Will it be that my bank account will be a certain amount of money? Will I have a home that I want? Will I have earned a position in a company? What specifically will you see, hear, and feel when you achieve it? How would it feel if earning that recognition was what you wanted? How is it going to feel when you walk across the stage? So what are you going to hear and feel? And get it really visceral. And they talk about being associated versus disassociated. Associated is like you are the person, and disassociated is like you're looking at a movie. So it's not you watching somebody walk across the stage to receive an award. It's you walking across the stage, or whatever it is, you holding a baby, whatever that is, you are doing it. It's associated. It's what you see, feel, and do for yourself. And then when you have this, what is it going to allow you to do in your life? For example, the money that I'm earning in my roles of providing coaching and speaking for caregiving, I'm contributing to a fund for caregiving respite programs. So the outcome of my earning money in that area is so that I can create programs for respite care for caregivers. So that's one of the things the outcome will allow me to do, is to contribute to a perpetual fund for that. But there are other things. And so you get connected to all the different reasons why this matters. So if you're slipping on your goal, it's not, oh, well, you know, I could do it later. No, you see how it really is going to impact your life and then the greater world around you that you're looking at touching. And then another part of it is, so how do you want to show up in that area? If these are the things that you want to have and what to do, who do you have to be that? What are the characteristics that you have to be able to express in order to have that? And I'll give you a little example about that in a moment as well. And then, just like we come into the world with unquenchable curiosity, we also come into the world with traits of our personalities and the path to what's important to us, our values, and what we believe to be truth, to be our truth, our beliefs. And those are all formed in our infancy and early childhood. And if we have a significant event somewhere in our lives, those might get shifted. But many of the beliefs that we have, often given out of love or care or support, that were our truths or what we found to be important as children, we just unconsciously then carry with us the rest of our lives, and we don't reevaluate them. And so perhaps sometimes you'll see someone and they'll say, well, I couldn't possibly do that. I'm no good at that. And perhaps there's someone who in their life had told them, well, you're no good at that. And they just took that on to be their truth. And they didn't ever look at it to re-explore it. Is that really my truth? And so through unquenchable curiosity, go back and look at what you believe to be true. And a lot of it is there has other people created what their truth was that's a lie about you, for you. You're no good at that. No, that's not really true. Go back and explore it. And here's an area where some of us can't get clarity on that because it's so close to us and we say, well, I'm no good at that. So that's where you go to your community or other friends around you and say, hey, do you believe that about me, or what do you think? And get other insights into that. But don't accept something that was your belief just because that's what it has been. Get it updated, get it current, make sure that your beliefs and what you find to be important, your values, are current for where you are. And so nothing's there to hold you back. And then with all of those, once you get there, keep asking, well, what else is possible? What else is possible? And what else is possible? Because as long as you can keep thinking of things that are what else is possible, you're on the right path. And you keep going and you keep exploring. If you can't come up with anything that's possible, if this doesn't seem to be the right thing, then you just take a step back until you can get into where it is possible for you. Do those questions make sense to you?
Yeah, they do.
So I'm not going to go through the other steps. All I'm going to do is to give you one other little teaser for the next thing that you can do if you choose to, is once you've gone through that and you've gotten some more clarity on it, if you've got it in your mind and you believe it and you feel it and you can picture it, then it can be yours because it's real. If you can imagine it, then you've created it. So if it's something that you want, then one of the things you can do is, you're not there yet, but you could go and just say, are there other people who actually have the traits of their personality or their characteristics that you respect and admire? That when you're thinking of who do I have to be that, you're not trying to be that person, but you see how they model those traits or characteristics. And so you find someone in your world, you know, if you're into sports, you could say, okay, well, like LeBron James, well, he's known as a team player. Or you look at somebody in any area or multiple areas of your lives, what characteristics that they have that you admire. So they're kind of teaching you, as you observe them, the way that you know that you're going to want to be. And then you start living that and you start being that. And that's who you start. That's not, you're not trying to be who like they are, but those are the characteristics you start practicing living in your life. Many people with this quote with Albert Einstein miss the last sentence, and I think the last sentence is so powerful, which is, we must learn to see the world anew. Well, when we intentionally navigate transitions and we're exploring ourselves, we are seeing the world anew, and that's one of the greatest gifts of the unquenchable curiosity that takes us there. So I've covered a lot. We're under our 30 minutes. Do you have any questions? Is there anything that I can go back and answer?
No, it all makes sense. Yeah. I don't have any questions.
Good. I'm glad you invested your lunch hour to be here with me.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. I just wanted to see what this was all about and how you were, working on transitions, because I know you have some of your own, as do I.
Yes, we do. Well, I appreciate, Shannon, that you showed up. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome, Sue. And I will see you at the gym here soon.
I will see you soon. And Lori, how about you? Do you have any questions I can answer?
No, I'm sorry I was on not showing my video. I was actually trying to eat in between meetings and I didn't want you guys to be jealous. Can you go back to those 6 steps just so I can kind of see them, even though
Sure.
I totally agree with, you definitely, I mean, you have to know where you're going. It's kind of like a GPS, right? You have to know where you're going to go to. Yeah. And then I love your last one, experience what you know, what you want. Because a lot of times the people that you admire are really you. Like, for example, say, I don't know, say you value honesty and you're attracted to that of somebody and you want to be even more honest or something. So that's good to be looking at those traits.
What I've learned in my studies and in my life is when we're around someone and we get an emotional charge, either positive or negative, we see something in them that we either admire or that we don't particularly care for in ourselves. And those people are modeling things that we have in our lives. And when I learned that, it really changed everything in my life. So now when I look at someone who I admire, I look at them for the characteristics they represent that I want to represent more in my life, because I really think that they're great. And often I'll just say something to them. I'll just reach out to them and tell them. And then I've also found when there are people who it's not that I disagree with them. It's not about disagreeing with someone, but when I find their performance unacceptable, when they're unkind or something that breaks my heart, I observe that in someone else and I say, this is a reminder for me how I never want to be, because I certainly can't control or change someone else. But if I see that in them, it's like, okay, remember, don't be that way yourself, because it's not what you like. And it's kind of an awakening.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really good point. Well, thanks for inviting me. I know it was, I just met you an hour ago.
Well, I'll give you guys a little teaser. If you got like 2 minutes, I'll give you a little teaser on step 5, because I find it so fascinating.
Sure.
Many people start their goal and say, okay, now what are the things I'm going to have to do moving forward to get there? But when you have pictured where it is you know you want to be, and if you ask yourself the question, what would have to have happened for me to get here, for me to already be here? I am here. This is where I am. I'm walking across the stage. What would I have had to have done? You're like, well, I would have had to have, like for me, it would have been, I would have had to have sold several $1 million in application software and several $1 million in services. I would have had to have sold that. Okay, well, what would have had to have happened for you to have done that? Well, I would have had to have done it. And so you just keep breaking it down from already having achieved it, moving back. And there's so much more clarity on it. And because you've seen it, and because you know what it is, and because you already feel congruent with it, it's easier to plan it backwards.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, your hows become easier.
Much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we usually start with the what and the how.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much. If I can do anything else, if you got any more questions, never hesitate to ask. I'm glad to share anything I can.
All right. Well, thank
Right.
you.
Thanks, Sue. This is great.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.